turned to his wife, the clerk, and said, "Madam Clerk, do you have an appeals form? What is the name of the court I appeal to?" "The county court." Kleinbaum starts answering the questions, and Glendora asks the clerk, "Where is it?" "Allen Street in Hudson." Later, Glendora got the address as 401 Union Street in Hudson. Kleinbaum was butting in all of the time, as he always does. "What is the telephone number?" Glendora asked Clerk Joanne Dixon. Kleinbaum said, 828-3339. Joanne Dixon said to Glendora, 828-3339. "How much is the filing fee?" Glendora asked Clerk Dixon. And she answered $5. Glendora gathered all of her papers and put them in the big staples box that 10 reams of copy paper come in, and left the room. Only Joanne Dixon, nobody else was in the room but Joanne Dixon, George Dixon, Natalia, and Kleinbaum, and Cop McDowell. And they were all available to do all of the ex parte and collusion that they wanted. I left them alone to do it at 8:25 p.m. Dixon should have closed the court, emptied the court, and locked the doors at that point. But did he? No, they all sat around and did their ex parte. Just yesterday, Glendora discovered that Madam Clerk spells her name Joanne, Joanne. Up until yesterday, the paper she signed looks like Joanne Dixon, Joann. Glendora could not read her writing, and then she found this in the lobby, and so that told me. Notice that the mayor is the brother of the chief of police, and notice that the clerk of the village court is a wife, is a wife of the judge of the village court. Isn't that great? If that is not nepotism, honey, what is? And here's some more things about the village of Chatham. The village of Chatham is a terrible place to live. Do not ever live or go to the village of Chatham. Okay, we are up to page 134. While waiting around 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. for the hearing, and that's in quotes, on April the 13th, Tuesday, Glendora asked to see the clerk 3 or 4 times and was demurred. She finally asked George Dixon, "Does this have to be filled out?" And she showed him her paper where she had the small claims actions served by Michael Autry on Natalia. "Does this have to be filled out?" Showing the action that Glendora versus Nasty Natalia filed March the 23rd. Dixon said no. Then she showed him another blank area, adjourned. "Does this have to be filled out?" "No." Glendora wanted to ask the clerk if the counterclaim ad damnum is still $2,000. But she was frustrated 6 times trying to see the clerk. Do you know if the counterclaim for a small claims action is $2,000? The maximum jurisdiction, do you know that? Monetary jurisdiction? I don't, because I couldn't ask anybody. Also, Glendora would have liked to explore a jury trial for her case. She certainly needs a jury with someone like George Dixon, but that was aborted also. And let me make a note on that when I file the notice of appeal, that jury trial denied, or aborted, or covered up, or... She certainly needs a jury with someone like George Dixon, but that was aborted also. And Glendora wanted to know about increased damage awards. What's that about? But nobody was available to answer. So we'll put that down, page 134. Now, these are all procedural questions, and they are not giving legal advice. Further, she wanted the clerk to sign her form, served and submitted. Glendora versus Nasty Natalia, filed on March the 23rd. No clerk was available. This is court's dysfunctionalism. Is Joanne Dixon afraid of George Dixon? Is she afraid of him as Glendora is? Is he a dangerous person? His personality defects cause fear because he abuses power. He abuses power the way cops do, and that can hurt. That's what you're really afraid of. Not the person himself, but their stupidity and their abuse and their false egos, blown up egos, balloon egos. That in all of this that they will do something really bad, like lock you up, when they have no authority to do so, but they'll go and do it out of abuse of power and out of stupidity. Glendora is entitled to a rehearing if I wanted one, but not with him. But not before Dixon. He is proved incompetent. The case must be dismissed for no jurisdiction. Further, the case must be quashed. Glendora has never been heard. Dixon refused to file and read Glendora's papers, her answers, and her defense. Court refused to show Glendora the file. Kleinbaum's fraternizing with the judge is appalling. He is so zealous to win by hook or crook. He is continuously ingratiating himself with the judge and with the clerk and with the police. It turns one's stomach. If you can't get a lawyer who knows the law, then for heaven's sakes get one who knows the judge. This is Kleinbaum. He has improper influence over the village justice and over other court personnel, and this is a charge. Dixon spends too much time fraternizing with lawyers, chit-chatting. He should be reading the legal papers, like the petition for 3-day eviction that he never saw. Kleinbaum should make up his own copies in his own office before coming to court. Is Kleinbaum getting 33 1/3% on consignment, and is therefore racking up these ridiculous contrived damages? Damages is quote unquote. Dixon heaves sighs at least 10 times an hour. His face is dangerously red, and he is very overweight, at about 5'5". High blood pressure is written on his red face. Natalia, waiting around all this time, should be attempting settlement, but Kleinbaum wants his 33 1/3% and thinks he can ingratiate the judge into it. Kleinbaum is bald with a ponytail and is also 5'5". A light bulb is missing in the so-called courtroom. Courtroom is in quote unquote. While waiting around, Kleinbaum sidles up with a cop on duty and tries to make him laugh. And 2 youths in gray uniforms, trainees, are intercepting the crooked things that happen in courts that rob people of America and are being forced to learn to do so themselves. Ambush. Kleinbaum and Natalia should have presented their phony damages in writing. Glendora should have had advance notice. Dixon should have taken care of that. Dixon is there to see that the rights of both parties are protected, and this is common law. And further, he's also there to make sure that a pro se is not taken advantage of. But he's the one who takes advantage of a pro se. So this is common law. That's all a judge is there for, is to see that the rights of both parties are protected. The jury is there to decide the issues of fact and to decide the issues of law. Now, judges have perverted this, and there's a movement on to get this back to common law the way it was. Should the populace be paying for Kleinbaum's copies? The American flag in the courtroom is as puny as the justice is. Little tiny flag. Must cost $0.25. Glendora has never heard from Police Chief Bohm, brother of the mayor, nor from the DA about pressing charges against Natalia, prosecuting, fined, and jailed. Glendora was freezing in November at 33 degrees, and she was getting sick, and she could not wait 9 days for lethargic Natalia to fix the furnace. Chatham is the village without America. Chatham is the village without America. This is Chatham, New York, County of Columbia, State of New York. Night court is no good. You have to drive in the dark, the rain, the slippery pavement, the black glare, water on the asphalt. It is dangerous, and Glendora got congestion in her throat. Night court is dangerous to our health. Kleinfeld, or Kleinbaum, I know somebody named Kleinfeld. Well, her name is really Littlefield. She taught us German in college, and so we used to call her Fräulein Kleinfeld, Miss Littlefield. Kleinbaum is an officer of the court, ergo a state actor, therefore comes under 42 U.S. Code Section 1983, Civil Rights, and 1985 Conspiracy. And we are up to page 141. What a call. What a call. Try to clean up this mess. What a call. To come to Chatham and find out how rotten things are in Chatham, New York. Well, do you want to hear 10 pages first or hear 10 jokes first? Oh, I hear you loud and strong. Everybody says the jokes. Okay. Marilyn says, I expect my husband to be 10 years from now exactly what he is today. And Marilyn says, that's absurd. And Carolyn says, yes, that's what he is today. Man came home from work and he was all depressed, and his wife says, honey, what's the matter? And the man says, they gave us aptitude tests today, and I flunked. And his wife says, oh, that's dreadful. He says, yeah, it's a good thing I own the company. What's the plural of goose? Right, geese. What's the plural of mouse? Right, mice. What's the plural of baby? Twins. Ed came out of a friend's house. He just adopted a darling Cocker Spaniel puppy, and he's holding the puppy in his arms, and he meets a friend of his, and he says, Harry, what do you think about this Cocker Spaniel puppy that I got for my wife? And Harry said, it's not a bad trade. There are so many labor-saving devices on the market today, you have to work all of your life to pay for them. And the girl was asked, why did you go to this school? And she said, because it had the best rating, and the best rating academically. 3,000 males to 1,000 co-eds. The Women's Club member said to the minister at the rummage sale, you see that little closet over there? I sold everything in that little closet. And the minister says, oh no, that's the cloak closet. Dorothy says, I have the most wonderful recipe for casserole. I simply mention it, and my husband says, let's eat out. The little Hollywood extra got a part, finally, a speaking part in a movie. And all he had to do was to say, when the detective comes in and says, did you see the woman drink that cup of coffee? And the little extra was to say, I did. When he went home and he practiced all the different ways he could say, I did. I did. I did. I did. Came time to shoot the scene. Detective says, did you see the woman drink that cup of coffee? And the little Hollywood extra said, did I? Now, the lady said to the artist, your colors are so beautiful. I wish that I could take some home with me. And the artist says, don't worry, ma'am, you will. You're sitting on my brushes. Do you hear the thunder? You remember yesterday afternoon when we were videotaping this chronology? Remember the thunder and the rain? We had a couple of showers today. Alrighty, Nasty Natalia defendants come under this court's jurisdiction as accessories. George Dixon and conjugal clerk Joanne Dixon and deceptor James Kleinbaum have a duty as to pro se leniencies. Now, we got it. You remember the Easter hymn? Christ the Lord is risen today, hallelujah. O death, where is thy sting? So, Dixon had his bitterness and satisfaction in dismissing Glendora versus Nasty Italia within 4 minutes. He had his time, but the sting was taken out of it because Glendora said right away, how do I go about appealing this? The caustic dismissal by Dixon was a sting, but it was alleviated and assuaged by immediate appeal. Dixon's conduct is irrational to the point of absurdity. Kleinbaum is always out of order, rash, and untrained. Natalia lied under oath. She gave Glendora a copy of the lease. She did not. She was coached by Kleinbaum to lie. Dixon kept interrupting Glendora's exam as to the issue. There was no lease served. There was no contract. Natalia is a liar, a frequent liar. Remember, Glendora has sued Natalia, and Glendora has immunity, absolute immunity, and that's Judge Holden in White Plains. I had a landlord case before Judge Holden in White Plains, and I said what I thought of that landlord, and the lawyer objected, and Judge Holden says, no, she has immunity. She has absolute immunity. The next morning, April the 14th, Wednesday, Glendora called the number Connubial clerk had given Glendora that Kleinbaum had given Connubial clerk. It was the county clerk's number, but not the chief court clerk's number. She inquired and got the office of the court administration number, Traficantes and Lippman. These are people in charge of the administration of the courts in the state of New York. To file her complaint against Dixon. She got the procedure for filing the notice of appeal. April the 13th, Joanne Dixon was saying to file the notice of appeal in county court. Glendora said, it is very understanding that the notice of appeal, it is my understanding that the notice of appeal is to be filed in the lower court. Oh yeah, that's right. The next morning, Glendora filed the notice of appeal and served a copy on Nasty Natalia defendants and on Kleinbaum. And here it is. Notice of appeal is the shortest and easiest legal paper to write. But you have to do it within 30 days, and don't mess around with that. Please take notice that Plaintiff Glendora appeals in its entirety the decision of George C. Dixon Village Court of Chatham, dated April the 13th, 2004. Glendora appeals to Columbia County Court, the appellate court for the Village of Justice Courts and Justice Courts. Filing fee of $5 is attached herewith, yours in truth, and an amor patriae, love of one's country. Glendora, chat with Glendora on 42 TV stations, including Albany, Box 124, Ghent, New York, 12075, 914-949-9495. This is more than a fight for Glendora. This is a fight for America. The court must be absterged of judges like Dixon, lawyers like Kleinbaum, and landlords like Nasty Natalia. Bullies, liar for hire, avaricious landlord, all who cause homelessness. It's no joke. Glendora was again fraudulently called to court April the 13th. No jurisdiction. This is actionable, and this was the third time. Further, Glendora came to be heard, and she was not. Dixon has no control over Kleinbaum. In fact, Dixon has no control over himself. The entire cascade is an intent to defeat justice. An intent to defeat justice. And the village wants to know is how much, all the village wants to know is how much did Dixon take in tonight? How many victims did he have? How many victims did he nab? None of this RICO enterprise comes as a peace officer. Glendora should picket Dixon on a Tuesday night, unfair court. Sidewalk speech deserves and gets the utmost protection, but she would want the FBI or the U.S. Marshal there to guard her against the acrimony and acerbity of Dixon and the retaliation of a detainment, almost a lockup. This is how caustic Dixon can get and how out of control. He makes a person uneasy all the time. He will come after one with his harsh abuse of the power people have mistakenly given him. Glendora should picket Natalia with posters, nasty landlord, but Natalia does not have a sidewalk. Dixon had bad parents who never taught him right from wrong, nor manners, nor the acquirement that pass socially. His choice is rude and crude. And what is out of bounds? Out of bounds is a kangaroo. A kangaroo court. See the kangaroo with the judicial robe on? A Matter of Justice Coalition. Phone 800-567-4930, nonprofit. Email mattjust@crosslink.net. Website www.amatterofjustice.org. Dahlgren, Virginia. I think you ought to get in touch with them. This is told Glendora before she went to court, Dixon intimidates you. He doesn't listen. There's no winning with him. That's the way it's been for years. Nobody else wants the job. Glendora affirms. It will take weeks of TV to cover this mess. The morning after Kleinbaum stole the adjudication of March the 30th, with the surreptitious adjourned to April the 13th, Glendora started to write a motion to recuse. But the morning after bloody April the 13th, she denied Dixon that grace and converted recuse to sue. Further, she never wants to return to the Dixon bench, quote unquote. Recuse was not the answer. So I started writing the complaint, and that complaint was for the United States District Court in Chicago. Send a copy to Judith K. Yeah, I did that. Glendora wants the police report of March 19th. Glendora wants the police report of March 21st. The first was Natalia's mudslinging. The second is Natalia's trying to enter Glendora's home, over which Glendora had possession of premises. Glendora wants to know how much money this is costing Natalia in attorney's fees, if any, unless he's on consignment. Do you think he is on consignment? He never filed a notice of appearance or a Carmody weight authorization. That should have been done. From what Glendora hears about the lease, Glendora having never been served a copy until court April 13th, the lease is unconscionable. Its terms could never stand up in a real court. What section was a frivolous Dixon question about the New York State Real Property Actions and Proceedings Law? What section? Dixon asked. That was a cop-out. He missed the Herculean points. No in personam, no regular mail, no nail-in mail, and no affix, and no traverse fairing. He missed all that. Glendora does not damage property. She improves property. She likes things nice, neat, tidy, organized, and attractive. And so did Franklin. And so we always improved the property that we rented. We never damaged it. Glendora never wants to go to Chatham again, and she said so on TV. This acephalous conduct of Natalia, Kleinbaum, and Dixon's has deprived Chatham Village of considerable consumer spending. Glendora dropped much cash into the Chatham economy. Much. Further, it deprived Chatham Methodist Church of donations it badly needs. Defendants had an imposing obligation to do what was best for the community in lieu of selfishly bleeding it for their own interests. These are hollow lines, lives of cheating. No dignity remains in the stark Chatham Village Injustice Court. April 18th, in caution as to Dixon's puerile retaliation and abuse of power, Glendora stood up in Chatham Methodist Church and said she could not go to this church anymore. She related the depravity of nasty Natalia, Kleinbaum, and the Dixons. Then she asked for prayers for all of them, and the minister was receptive and did pray for them. After church coffee hour, one of Glendora's favorite congregants, Flo Florence, told Glendora that Flo's sister, Mary, is the mother of Joanne Dixon. Mary is another of Glendora's favorites. Mary is George Dixon's mother-in-law. This meant that Joanne Dixon is Mary's daughter. Glendora is stunned. Here she is, suing the daughter and son-in-law of one of her favorite people. You've heard of family court? That's it, folks. Recall Kleinbaum's objection that Glendora's case against Natalia should be dismissed because all it said was personal damages. Well, Kleinbaum, Natalia, spent an hour telling Dixon about Natalia's fraudulent damages when they were never filed anything in writing about these damages. You get the point? I mean, did I mess it up? Kleinbaum is saying that all my complaint said was personal damages. But he never filed a complaint at all, saying anything about damages. Dixon had no grounds to dismiss Glendora's case, nor did he ever cite any grounds. Reserved. Now we're done incorporating the jot thoughts from the notebook. Now insert the jot thoughts from the audio tapes. I carry an audio tape, and if I have a thought, I record it, and I listen to it later, and they're very, very interesting. And I've told you before that thoughts are electromagnetic waves, and electromagnetic waves travel at 186,000 miles per second. And when a thought goes through your head that fast, if you don't catch it, you're never going to hear it again or see it again. April the 23rd, Friday, Glendora is healing well from Dixon's turning the knife in the wounds. Tomorrow, Glendora must edit her TV show, and this takes about 9 hours. It is usually 9 half-hour editions. This week, of course, it'll be about 18 because of these people. The Natalia lawsuit will have to wait. The next step is to incorporate the jot thoughts from the audio tapes, the wherefore, printing, or stuffing, the envelopes, and the service. The first night, March 23rd, Dixon asked, "What is your last name?" Glendora told him, eyeball to eyeball. By the third night, April the 13th, he'd forgotten it. There is just no decorum. He butts in. There's a massive inferiority complex and overcompensation for it. He said it right once, preferred country properties. It goes beyond bias and prejudice of Glendora. It goes into hatred, and it goes beyond that. It goes into, give me a piece of it when you get it.